Have you ever made a promise to yourself that you genuinely meant? Maybe it's something like, I'm going to start drinking more water, or I'll meditate once a week, or I'm going to get back into that thing I love. I'm going to start saying no to those requests and people that just drain me. Maybe you even bought a new water bottle, more paint or craft supplies. You got the meditation cushion or the planner to start organizing your schedule. You probably did great for a couple of days or even a few weeks, but somewhere along the way, life got busy, something unexpected happened, or you woke up one day and kind of just forgotten about it. Before you know it, that little voice shows up saying, "See, we never stick to anything." If you've experienced this, you are definitely not alone. There's even a day in January called Quitter's Day, the day most New Year's resolutions fail by. It's like on the 6th or something. We don't fall off track because we're lazy or because we don't care. And that's what I want to talk about today. In the other video posted this week, we talked about 7 habits that can help us build a life that's a little steadier, a little kinder, and a little more supportive. One of those is incredibly powerful and one of my favorites. Keep one small promise to yourself each day. Honestly, it sounds simple, but life gets busy or our minds are racing in other directions. Maybe we practice for a couple of days and start to doubt that it will actually even yield any outcomes. But I promise, it makes more of an impact than you realize. Let's talk about it. Hello, and welcome to Torches, Yoga and Mindfulness. I'm Lauren, and I'll be your coach. If you're curious about mindfulness, healing, and practical habits that actually work, you're in the right place. Here we focus on simple but powerful practices grounded in ancient wisdom and modern science to care for both our mind and body. So go ahead, hit the like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Okay, you're gonna think I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but stick with me. I think one of the biggest misunderstandings we have about confidence is where we think it comes from. We tend to believe confidence comes first, and that we can think our way into feeling more confidence. Side note, if you've been around the channel, you may have caught a little foreshadowing, a little mindful thread, if you will, in that last sentence, thinking our way into feeling confident. And if you've been around, you know I like to say we can't think our way through our feelings. But the misunderstanding we get about confidence is that we'll just wake up one day feeling motivated enough, ready enough, and that then we can start. But that's not really how our brains work. Research in psychology and neuroscience suggests our brains are constantly updating an internal model of who we are. They aren't just listening to what we say about ourselves, they're paying attention to what we repeatedly do. In other words, our brains collect evidence. Every action is a tiny data point. Every choice whispers something about our identity. If I repeatedly show up for something, my brain slowly starts believing, okay, this is someone who does this. Not because I said I was going to do it, but because I did it. And confidence isn't what is driving the action to do it. It's not the cause, it's the result of doing the thing. It's what grows after we've accumulated enough evidence that we can trust ourselves. And the fact that the self-trust and confidence comes from repeating simple actions means the good news is that confidence isn't reserved for certain personality types. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, oh wow, that other person, they're just so confident, or I'll never be confident like them? But that's not the case. We can build it. This reminds me of Blanche. You've probably heard me talk about her, the side of my brain that gets a little relentless sometimes. But Blanche wakes up before I do. I'll barely have my eyes open and she's already trying to plan next weekend, replay yesterday's awkward conversation, and trying to convince me everything is somehow on fire before my feet even hit the floor in the morning. She means well. Our brains usually do. They're trying to protect us. And they are incredible assistants, but they are terrible bosses. Now Blanche, she keeps receipts. She remembers. If I spend years announcing these grand plans that I'm going to do something but don't follow through or stick to any of them, she notices. She files that away. Like if I go on telling friends and family about how I'm going to start meditating for half an hour every day. I spend time working on my weekly schedule for when I can best work in those 30 minutes every day. I get the cushion, maybe buy some incense. But Blanche isn't up here getting excited about the new thing. She's up here giving me the side eye. Because based on evidence that she's collected, she isn't convinced about it yet. And honestly, I don't blame her. What I'm trying to say is, I think many of us think we've lost confidence or don't have enough confidence when what we've actually lost is trust. Not for other people, but just the trust in ourselves. Imagine you had a friend who made plans with you every week. They would always promise to be there, and every week they cancel. Would you stop loving them? Probably not. But eventually, you would stop expecting them to show up. If someone only showed up for you 20% of the time, how much would you actually trust them? Probably not much. Now, here's the uncomfortable question. Have we become that friend to ourselves? Not because we're lazy or lack discipline or are broken in some way, but simply because life happened and our brains have been paying attention. And while that can sound kind of bleak, like, of course, I did this to myself, but be kind to yourself first and foremost. Second, that's actually really good news because if the repetition of falling off track weakened that trust, that means repetition can rebuild it. That's easier said than done, of course, though, right? I've said it before. I'm not here offering super complicated and complex practices. The hard part isn't the practice, the hard part is remembering to return to it. Then we add to that struggle by making things harder than they need to be. When we decide to change our lives, we try to change everything, to do some huge overhaul, new routines, diets, people's budgets, more water, start gardening, sleep better, blah, blah, blah. We pile all these changes in and probably even give ourselves a deadline on top of all that. So no wonder our nervous systems just kind of step back like, no thanks. We can't approach ourselves and our lives like one big project, like something that needs to be fixed in every aspect. Think of the promises you keep to yourself, like the butterfly effect. One small, tiny action today, big impacts in the future. So we start small. What's the smallest promise I know I can keep today? Not this month, not forever, just today. Maybe that's taking one mindful breath right before getting into your workday, stretching for 2 minutes when you wake up, setting a boundary, pausing before you respond, or speaking kindly to yourself. Small isn't the point. Follow through is, because every promise we keep becomes evidence. Evidence becomes expectation. Expectation becomes identity, and identity becomes confidence. Let me repeat that because I think it's worth remembering. Kept promises are evidence. Evidence becomes expectation. Expectations turn into identity, and identity becomes our confidence. That is the progression, that is the path, and nowhere in there does it include succeeding at everything or perfecting anything. We simply have to become consistent enough for our brains to notice. We aren't convincing ourselves with affirmations, we are collecting evidence. And that is the neuroscience side of it. Studies suggest that confidence is built from evidence. Our brains update its predictions about who we are based on what we repeatedly do, not what we intend to do. Every time we follow through on something, we are giving our brains another piece of evidence that says, this is someone who keeps showing up. So, of course, friend, you know I have some practices for you to build that consistency. The first practice is to make your promises to yourself almost laughably small. We're not lowering the bar, just raising the likelihood that we'll actually follow through. So first, ask yourself, what is one thing future me would genuinely appreciate that I could absolutely do today? Then when you do the thing, pause for just a moment, not to celebrate yourself in some huge dramatic way, just to notice and acknowledge to yourself, I did the thing. And a pat on the back or a self-hug couldn't hurt. This gives your brain a chance to register the evidence. We rush past these moments all the time. Don't. Maybe that even becomes another promise to yourself, like a 2-for-1 deal. These little moments quietly change the relationship we have with ourselves. And if you miss a day, don't make it mean something about who you are. Let it just mean that you missed a day. That's it. One missed promise doesn't erase 100 that came before it. Missing a day simply gives us another opportunity to begin again. And let's say your promise is to start a new habit, something you'll do regularly, like reading before bed instead of scrolling, getting consistent, or starting a yoga or meditation practice, or just slowly tackling some bigger project. A great trick we can use isn't really a trick, I guess. I should say more a tip on your approach to the new thing is to finish before you hit exhaustion. And I don't necessarily mean physical exhaustion, but leave yourself wanting more. Leave it before, and when you're still wanting one more page, one more stretch, one more minute on the cushion. That makes coming back tomorrow feel inviting instead of dreadful and obligatory. Friend, last week we imagined the future versions of ourselves. Maybe they felt calmer, kinder, more grounded, or they felt like someone you could come home to. This week, don't ask, how do I become that person? Ask, what's one promise I can keep today that they would be thankful that I kept? Because that future version of you isn't built in one extraordinary decision. They're built in hundreds of tiny moments, quiet choices, and opportunities to gently tell yourself, I can count on me. And one day, without even realizing exactly when it happened, our brains stopped giving us the side eye and has just started to expect we'll show up. We didn't become a different person overnight. We just kept one small promise at a time, and we became someone we learned to trust. And that, friend, is where confidence begins. Friend, thank you so much for sharing a piece of your day with me. Stay present, stay kind to yourself, and I will see you soon.